Collaboration is very different than a partnership or teamwork or cooperation. Collaboration means there's a goal and you have to get there and you have to understand your place in that process. I think when you start to look at the Zoom mentality, when you start to look at the DAO mentality, decentralized autonomous organizations, we are all within our own goal setting. We're in our own world. We're in our own bubble. And so when you're communicating with someone else, you may have had created this entire world that you think is the greatest thing in the world, that you think you've done a fantastic job, but you haven't had the context. And what interpersonal communication does when you're in person is creates more context around any given situation. So when you're hybrid working, you get a bump of that when you go back to the office. But when you're working on your own, sometimes you can turn things off and you go, oh, you know what? I meant to ask that question, or is that really what they meant? Or if you're getting a text follow-up, sometimes it seems cold. So how do you communicate in those types of dynamics? And that's where collaboration is key, because collaboration, which is what I've moved a lot more into in terms of my studies and my talks and my books and my teachings, is about goal setting, but within a context, and then understanding your power within that context and not giving it up. So in my talk and my program, The Collaboration Code, I talk a lot about self-awareness, self-diagnostics, understanding your superpower and not disclosing it. And so I get into a lot of these programs with this 12-step type of ideas that you can use and anchor yourself when you're in a hybrid situation to go, oh yeah, now I know how I can interact or not, or hold on to my superpower in this dynamic. And so it really provides a sense of comfort and a sense of goal setting for a lot of people, whether you're in the professional setting or in the personal setting, professional development, personal development, is how to understand what you are doing within any given situation to get to a particular goal. I think most creatives are collaborative in nature. And they're collaborative in nature because they're curious individuals. And you have to be a curious individual in order to be creative. Otherwise, you're just doing something that's repetitive and you don't know, again, to come back to the word context, what that means in the bigger world. And that's why collaboration is key. And often, creatives are the best collaborators because they understand their superpower. They understand what their talent is, what they're good at, what they're not good at often. And that's why they're in a creative field. And then they look to others in order to enhance that. Look at a band. If you're playing the guitar, you may be the best guitarist in the world, or you're the best singer in the world, or you're the best drummer in the world. It doesn't come together until you collaborate. And then you can create an amazing song. And so that's really an interesting look at how it works in any given setting. You may be the best at what you do, and you got hired for a particular reason, and you have to remember what that was. Understanding what your special talent is sometimes takes a little bit of work, and I get into that in the collaboration code, how you can do it. A lot of people who are in the collaboration space, giving talks, giving research, giving types of books that are out there say, you need to decide up front whether you want to collaborate or not. I don't get into that question until about step 6 in my 12-step program, because I don't think you can understand the context of the dynamic or understand who you are and how you fit into a particular situation, whether you're an engineer and you understand what the goal is for that particular project, or whether you're someone in the science field who doesn't understand what someone across the world is doing. If you're in a DAO situation, you have to understand the context, understand your special power, and then creatively, you can come together and get a goal accomplished. Collaboration is very different than partnership, or teamwork, or cooperation. Collaboration means there's a goal, and you have to get there, and you have to understand your place in that process. I think AI actually enhances the workplace in many different ways that we just haven't thought about before. For example, if you're in the financial services industry, there's, collaborative AI is working in the form of robo-advisors. And typically a financial advisor would come to you and you would say, this is my financial situation. I want to retire in X years. They would put together a portfolio, implement that into the market, and then you would have your stock, your bonds, and whatever that would allow you to reach those financial goals that you had. Robo-advisors came in and they basically said, well, we can take all of that through a questionnaire, implement that data, put it into the form of stocks and bonds and money market funds, and you will then accomplish your goal. But in between those two things is something missing. And oftentimes, if we're really honest with ourselves, we have different goals than we want to check a box and admit. Or we may have some things that we really want to do, but we're too, intimidated, or we feel uncomfortable sharing them with someone. I want to go sail a boat. Well, okay, maybe that sounds a little trite. Maybe I don't have to do that. You need the validation process. You need to be able to speak to an individual and a human. And if you put a human in the middle of that with collaborative AI, you're not only feeding your goals with data and information and getting them done in the best possible way through computer algorithms, you're also getting the benefit of a human touch. So I think you could apply that to anything, whether it's engineering or medicine sciences or even when it comes to the sustainability, how can you implement a program if it comes to disaster relief, for example? What's the best way to get certain things to people? And how can you do that? Well, if you have a collaborative and an artificial intelligence approach that can see a map and can get things done more efficiently, we all know that when you go onto your GPS, it gets you there a little better than you do when you're thinking like, oh yeah, I've done this before, because it could take into account different things like traffic patterns. So if you can use it for all sorts of different things, why not do that? But then say, yeah, but I know on Tuesday school gets out over there and it's going to be more busy. So let me use the human intelligence here to redirect things. And so I think there's a push and a pull as we start to see the rise of AI come into all different, manner of business. We can use it to our advantage. We just have to jujitsu the process and then look at it in a positive way. What I'd like audiences to take away is three things. One, I want them to feel something, have a great experience, understand that, this can be a fun type of environment, or at least a positive environment where you can understand what's going on. You're going to learn something is number two. So you can have fun, you're going to feel something. Number two, you're going to learn something because you're going to have a lot of data and information and exercises to do. And then third, and most importantly, I think, is you can have something to take away and do. So it's not just a static presentation. You're actually going to be able to implement what you learned that day and hopefully felt good about, and then be able to take it home or take it to the workplace and actually implement it. So whether that's an actionable takeaway, whether it's information that allows you to join, a different group, or whether it's some little kernel of information that you're going to be able to use in your next meeting and go, oh yeah, that was step number 3 in the collaboration code. I really should hold on to something and then use my power in a certain way to accomplish my goal and get the best benefit out of this collaborative process for myself. So it's really about feeling, it's about learning, and it's about doing. So if I get those 3 things across, I feel like I win and audiences win as well.